Please save me. I am dying.
Senior Amara. There's a dead Santa in the bushes. 7-year-old Kalu's voice cracked with terror as he stumbled backward from the elephant grass, his thin arms clutching the plastic bottles they'd been collecting for supper. Blood, dark and fresh, stained his bare feet. Amara dropped her own bottles and ran, her heart pounding. Dead bodies weren't unusual in the abandoned bushes behind their zinc shack in Enugu. Drug dealers dumped rivals here. Criminals disposed of evidence. The police never came to this part of town. Too poor, too forgotten, too dangerous. But a dead Santa? Show me, she commanded, pulling her brothers close. At 7 years old, exactly 4 minutes older than Kalu and 2 minutes older than Chitty, Amara had learned to be brave even when she was terrified. They followed the trail of blood 20 meters into the bush, past the abandoned cement factory, past where wild dogs slept, to a small clearing where the grass had been crushed flat. There, face down in the dirt, wearing the strangest, most expensive costume Amara had ever seen, was a man. His suit was thick red velvet, impossibly clean except for dark stains spreading across his back. His white beard was matted with blood and dust. One black boot was missing. His hands were scratched and bleeding, fingers still clutching something that glinted gold in the afternoon sun. "Is he dead?" Chitty whispered. Amara knelt like their mother had taught them before malaria took her 6 months ago. She pressed 2 trembling fingers against the man's neck, expecting nothing, expecting cold skin and stillness. A pulse. Weak but there. "He's alive," she breathed. But barely. That's when she saw it. Behind his right ear, partially hidden by white hair and blood. A birthmark. Small. Distinct. Shaped exactly like a crescent moon. The same birthmark all 3 of them had. The same birthmark their mother had called the sign of blessing. The same birthmark their mother said connected them to someone who loved them, someone they'd never met, someone who would find them one day. Amara's hands began to shake for a different reason. "We have to save him," she said. "How?" Chitty asked, his voice small. "We have nothing. We are nothing." Amara looked at her brothers, thin from hunger, dressed in rags, forgotten by the world. Then at the dying man in the Santa suit who wore their family's mark. "We may have nothing," she said fiercely, "but we have each other, and that's more than he has right now." So 3 children who owned nothing, who had nothing, who were nothing in the world's eyes, decided to save a stranger's life. They didn't know this decision would change every 6th thing. They didn't know the man in the Santa suit wasn't Santa at all. He was Chief Alexander Nwosu, the king of oil, one of Nigeria's richest men, worth over $5 billion. Another thing they found about him will shock you. Tell us where you are watching from. Make the comment section an interactive one. Please turn on your notifications bell to get notified of our next interesting stories. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. 1 week after that Boxing Day in the bushes, Amara stood at the entrance of a mansion so large she couldn't see where it ended. Marble floors stretched in every direction, polished so bright she saw her reflection. A thin girl in a brand new dress that felt strange on her skin. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings 3 stories high. Paintings in golden frames covered walls the size of her entire old neighborhood. Behind her, Chitty and Kalu stood frozen, afraid to step on perfect white floor with their new shoes. A woman in an expensive wrapper and ghillie approached, jewelry clicking with each step. "Welcome home, children," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome to your father's house." Their father. The words still felt impossible. Chief Alexander Nwosu, the man they'd found dying in a Santa suit, the man they'd fed their last bowl of Gary, the man who'd woken on the 3rd day and called them by names they'd never heard, stood at the top of the grand staircase, watching with eyes full of tears. "Come," he said, voice breaking. "Come home." But how did they get here? How did 3 ghost children from Enugu slums end up in a billionaire's mansion? The answer lay in 3 things. a crescent moon birthmark, a lullaby their dead mother taught them, and a truth so dangerous that powerful men had tried to kill to keep it buried. Neighbors in dusty Enugu called them the Ghost Triplets, not because they were dead, but because they were so thin and quiet they seemed to vanish into the Harmattan haze. While Nigeria feasted on jollof rice and fried goat meat this Boxing Day, Amara, Chitty, and Kalu scoured bushes behind their zinc shack for discarded plastic bottles to sell. Their mother, Nkem, had died 6 months ago. Malaria, doctors said. But Amara knew the truth. Their mother died from exhaustion, from working 3 jobs, from stress of raising triplets alone in crushing poverty, from a broken heart that never healed after the man she loved disappeared. Before she died, Nkem made Amara promise something. Take care of your brothers. Keep singing the lullaby. One day someone will hear it and remember. One day you'll understand everything. Amara had promised, though she didn't understand. Now, at 7, she was mother and father and provider for 2 boys who trusted her completely. They lived in a shack of zinc sheets and scrap wood. Rain poured through the roof. Wind shook the walls. They slept on cardboard, covered themselves with newspapers, ate once a day if lucky. This morning they'd found only 6 bottles, not nearly enough. We need more, Amara said, stomach growling so loud Chitty laughed despite their situation. Maybe near the big road, he suggested. That's when Kalu spotted the blood. Dragging the unconscious man back to their shack was the hardest thing they'd ever done. He was heavy. So heavy Amara's arms burned and her back screamed. But they couldn't leave him. Wild dogs roamed these bushes at night. Bad men came here to dump things they didn't want found. If they left him, he would die. So they pulled and pushed and carried, inch by inch, until they had him inside their tiny shack. Amara closed the broken door and leaned against it, breathing hard. What do we do now? Kalu asked, voice small and scared. Amara looked at the man. Up close, his costume was stranger. The red velvet was fine quality, the kind she'd only seen in shop windows in the rich part of town. His boots, the one he still wore, were real leather. Even his white beard looked expensive, though matted with blood. We clean his wounds, she decided. Like Mama taught us. They had almost nothing. A bucket of water from the public tap that morning. An old rag for washing. Some herbs their mother kept in a tin can, bitter leaf and scent leaf, said to help with healing. Amara gently turned the man over. His face was bruised, with a deep gash above his left temple still bleeding slowly. More injuries covered his body. Scratches on hands, bruises on ribs, a twisted ankle. But he was alive. As she cleaned the wound on his temple, pushing aside white hair, she looked again at the birthmark behind his right ear. The crescent moon, exactly like theirs. Slowly, she pulled down her own collar, revealing her neck. There, in the exact same spot, was the exact same birthmark. Chitty, she whispered. Kalu, show me your necks. Her brothers looked confused but obeyed. Both had it too, the crescent moon, right behind the right ear. A mark their mother always said made them special, made them chosen. He has our mark, Amara said, voice shaking. What does it mean? Chitty asked. I don't know, Amara admitted. But Mama said this mark connects us to someone important. Someone who loves us. Kalu knelt beside the man and touched his face gently. Do you think this is him? The person Mama talked about. Before Amara could answer, the man moaned. His eyes flickered behind eyelids, and his lips moved, forming words they couldn't hear. We need to help him get better, Amara decided. Then we can ask who he is. So they covered him with their only blanket, moth-eaten and thin but clean. They gave him their pillow, a bundle of old clothes stuffed into a pillowcase. And they watched over him as the sun set and darkness filled their shack. That night, as Boxing Day celebrations echoed from distant houses, music and laughter and the smell of roasted meat, 3 children sat hungry in the dark, protecting a stranger who might be their only connection to a past they'd never known. For 3 days, the man drifted in and out of consciousness, trapped by fever. The children shared everything with him. Their meager rations, soaked Gary that tasted like paste, a single piece of roasted yam bought with bottle money, water from the public tap. Amara would wake at night to find the man thrashing, calling out names in languages she didn't understand. English, Igbo, sometimes French. He was educated, wealthy probably, nothing like people in their neighborhood. "Who are you?" she would whisper to his sleeping face. "Why do you have our mark?" On the second day, Chitty came running from the main road, eyes wide with fear. "Sister, the radios. Everyone's talking about a missing rich man." "What rich man?" Amara asked, heart suddenly pounding. "Chief Alexander Nwosu," Chitty panted. "The king of oil. They say his helicopter crashed on Christmas Day. They say he's missing. Maybe dead." Amara looked at the man in the Santa suit, mind racing. A helicopter crash. Christmas Day. The day before Boxing Day. The day before they found him. "They're saying it was an attack," Chitty continued. "Someone tried to kill him. Police are searching everywhere." "Don't tell anyone he's here," Amara commanded. "If someone tried to kill him once, they'll try again." "But what if we're helping a bad man?" Kalu asked nervously. Amara looked at the birthmark behind the man's ear. "He's not bad," she said with certainty she couldn't explain. "He's ours." That night, as fever reached its peak, the man began to scream, not in pain but in anguish, calling a name over and over. "Nkem! Kem! Forgive me! Kem!" Their mother's name. The children looked at each other, understanding dawning like a terrible, beautiful sunrise. This wasn't just any stranger. This was the man their mother had loved. The man she'd protected even after he disappeared. The man whose name she'd never spoken but whose memory lived in every lullaby, every story, every whispered promise that one day you'll understand. As the man thrashed in nightmare, Amara did the only thing she could think of. She began to sing, the lullaby their mother taught them, the one she'd made them promise to never forget. Ancient Igbo words, rhythmic and soothing. "Lula, Lula, Nwam Kani Nalu. Sleep, sleep, my precious child. The moon watches, the stars guide. Your father's love will never die." The effect was immediate. The man's eyes snapped open, fully aware for the first time in 3 days. They were sharp, intelligent, filled with agonizing recognition that made tears stream down his face. "Nkem?" he croaked, voice raw. "Is that you?" Amara stopped singing. "Our mother was Nkem. She died 6 months ago." The man's face crumpled like paper. A sound came from his throat. Not quite a scream, not quite a sob. Pure grief-given voice. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no. I was coming back. I finally found her. I was coming home." He looked at Amara properly for the first time. Really looked. His eyes traveled from her face to her thin frame to the shack around them. "Where did you learn that song?" he asked, voice breaking. "Our mother," Amara said carefully. "She taught us. She said it belonged to a man who lived in the stars. A man who loved us but couldn't stay. Alexander Nwosu, because now there was no doubt who he was." Reached out a trembling hand. He touched the crescent moon birthmark on Amara's neck with fingers that shook so badly they could barely make contact. "I didn't live in the stars," he whispered, "but I might as well have. I was searching for you, for your mother. For 8 years I searched. And when I finally found her..." He couldn't finish. The grief was too much. Amara knelt beside him, this powerful man reduced to tears in their tiny shack. "She loved you," she said softly. "Even when she was dying, she made us promise to remember the song. She said you would hear it one day and come home." "I am home," Alexander said. pulling all 3 children into his arms. His expensive Santa suit was ruined, covered in blood and dirt and tears. But he didn't care. He held his children. Children he'd never met. Children he didn't know existed until this moment. And wept like a man who'd been lost in the desert and finally found water. "I am your father," he told them. "I didn't know. Your mother, she disappeared 8 years ago. My family drove her away because she was poor, because she wasn't good enough for me. I searched everywhere, but I could never find her. She came here," Amara said quietly, "to Enugu. She worked in the market. She kept us alive. She kept your memory alive through the song." Alexander pressed his forehead against Amara's. "And now she's gone. I'm too late." "But we're here," Kalu said, small voice cutting through grief. "We saved you. We're your family now." Alexander looked at his son. His youngest, who he'd never held as a baby, never taught to walk, never protected from the harsh world. "Yes," he breathed. "You saved me, in more ways than you know." He pulled back slightly, wiping his eyes. "But we're not safe here. The people who crashed my helicopter, they'll be looking for me. And if they find me alive," as if summoned by his words, they heard it. The rumble of vehicles, multiple engines, getting closer. Alexander's face went pale. "They've found me." Chief Obinna Okoro had always hated Alexander Nwosu. They'd been business partners for 20 years. Obinna providing political connections, Alexander providing the brilliant mind that turned oil fields into gold. Together, they'd built a billion-dollar empire. But Obinna was tired of being junior partner. Tired of watching Alexander get all the credit, all the respect, all the power. So he'd made a plan. Sabotage the helicopter. Make it look like an accident. Take control of the company. Become the king of oil himself. The crash should have killed Alexander. Should have left nothing but charred remains to bury with full honors while Obinna quietly seized everything. But Alexander's pilot had been skilled. Had brought the helicopter down in bush instead of rocky hills. Alexander survived, crawling away from wreckage before it exploded, wandering through forest in shock until he collapsed behind a shack. A shack that, unknown to him, belonged to the children he'd been searching for. For 3 days, Obinna had been hunting, using police connections, criminal networks, anyone who might have seen a wounded man in expensive clothes. Today, a tip came. A street vendor saw 3 children dragging something large into the slums. Something wearing red. Obinna's convoy rolled to a stop outside the zinc shack. 6 men stepped out, private security, armed and dangerous. Inside, Alexander looked at his children. His tiny, brave children who'd saved him when the whole world failed. "Listen carefully," he said, voice low and urgent. "When they come, you tell them you found a dead man in the bush. You came to report it. Nothing more. Understand?" "But they'll take you," Amara protested. "They'll kill you if you try to protect me," Alexander said firmly. "I won't let that happen. I just found you. I won't lose you now." Outside, Obinna's voice called, "Alexander, I know you're in there. Come out. And maybe I'll let the children live." Alexander's jaw clenched. He stood, pain shooting through his injured leg, and moved toward the door. But Amara grabbed his hand. "No," she said. "Amara, no," she repeated louder. "You're our father. We don't let bad people hurt family." Chidi and Kalu moved to stand beside their sister, blocking the door with their small bodies. "We saved you once," Chidi said. "We'll save you again." Before Alexander could stop them, all 3 children walked outside. Obinna stood in the dust, surrounded by armed men. He was tall, well-dressed, with the kind of smile that never touched his eyes. "Well, well," he said, looking at the triplets. 3 little rats. "Where is he?" "Who?" Amara asked, voice steady despite her racing heart. "Don't play games, child. Where is Alexander Nwosu?" "We don't know any Alexander," Amara lied. We found a dead man in the bush. We were going to tell someone. Obina laughed, a cruel sound. A dead man in a red suit? How convenient. He gestured to his men. Search the shack. Bring him out. The men moved forward, pushing past the children. That's when Alexander stepped out on his own. He no longer looked like a victim. Despite injuries, despite 3 days of fever and pain, he stood tall. Commanding. The king of oil facing down a traitor. You should have made sure the crash finished me, Obina, he said quietly. Obina's smile faded. Alexander. Still alive. How unfortunate. Is that all you have to say? Alexander demanded. After 20 years of partnership? After everything we built together? We built nothing, Obina spat. You built. You got the credit. I was just the one who made sure the right people looked the other way while you made your billions. So you tried to kill me. I tried to take what should have been mine. Obina's calm mask cracked. But you're too stubborn to die, aren't you? Just like always. Just like. He stopped, noticing the children for the first time. Really noticing them. His eyes traveled from their faces to their thin frames to the way they stood protectively around Alexander. Who are these children? He asked slowly. None of your concern, Alexander said. But Obina was smart. Dangerously smart. His eyes narrowed as pieces fell into place. The resemblance, he breathed. They look like Nkem, the market woman you were obsessed with 8 years ago. The one who disappeared. Alexander's face went hard. Leave them out of this. They're yours, Obina said with dawning realization. These slum children are Alexander Nwosu's heirs. He started laughing. A terrible, delighted sound. This is perfect. This is. He never finished his sentence. Because Kalu, 7 years old and tired of being scared, picked up a rock and threw it. It hit Obina square in the forehead. Not hard enough to seriously injure, but hard enough to shock everyone into silence. Stop talking about our father like that, Kalu said, small voice fierce. You're a bad man, and bad men don't get to win. For a moment the world held its breath. Then Alexander moved. Fast. Faster than a wounded man should be able to move. He grabbed the nearest guard's arm, twisted, and had the man's own gun pointed at Obina before anyone could react. Everybody stop, Alexander commanded. Nobody move. Obina's face went pale. You won't shoot me. Not in front of your children. You're right, Alexander agreed. But I don't need to shoot you. I just need to buy time. Time for what? As if in answer, sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. Amara had sent Chitty running to the police station 10 minutes ago, as soon as they'd heard vehicles approaching. She'd gambled that not every police officer in Enugu was corrupt. That somewhere, someone would care that children were in danger. She'd been right. 3 police trucks screeched to a stop, surrounding the scene. Officers poured out, weapons drawn. Leading them was Captain Namdi, one of the few clean cops in Enugu, known for actually investigating crimes instead of taking bribes. Nobody move, Captain Namdi commanded. Chief Obina Okoro, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Obina tried to smile, to bluff. This is ridiculous. I'm here helping search for my missing partner. We have the helicopter's black box, Captain Namdi interrupted. Recovered this morning. Clearly shows the explosion was deliberate. Sabotage. Triggered remotely. He pulled out his phone, showing a recording. We also have this audio file, sent anonymously 20 minutes ago. Your voice, discussing the accident with co-conspirators. Alexander had been busy during 3 days of fever. Even wounded, even dying, his mind had been working. He'd recorded conversations through his smartwatch, set up automatic uploads to trusted contacts. Evidence that would activate if he didn't check in. Obina's face crumpled as he realized he'd lost. It's over, Alexander said quietly. You tried to kill me. You failed. And now you'll face justice. As police handcuffed Obinna and his men, Alexander knelt in the dust in front of his children. "You three," he said, voice thick with emotion, "are the bravest people I've ever met. You saved my life. You protected me. You stood up to evil men with nothing but courage and love." "We're family," Amara said simply. "That's what family does." Alexander pulled them close, not caring that police were watching, that cameras from news crews were appearing, that his ruined Santa suit was making him look ridiculous. "Yes," he whispered, "we're family, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to be scared, or hungry, or alone ever again." Captain Namdi approached, smiling. "Chief Nwosu, I think you have some explaining to do. Starting with why Nigeria's wealthiest man is wearing a Santa costume in the slums of Enugu." Alexander laughed, really laughed, for the first time in 8 years. "Captain," he said, "I have a story to tell you, about 3 ghost children who saved a man who didn't deserve saving. About a woman who kept a secret for 8 years to protect the people she loved. And about how sometimes the richest treasures are found in the poorest places." The transformation happened fast. Within hours, the story spread across Nigeria. Billionaires saved by slum children. The ghost triplets who found their father. Boxing Day miracle in Enugu. Television crews descended on the small shack. Reporters interviewed neighbors who suddenly remembered the triplets fondly, though they'd ignored them for months. Politicians gave speeches about the power of family. But for the children, the real change came when Alexander said 4 words. "Pack your things. We're going home." They had nothing to pack. Everything they owned fit in a single plastic bag. 3 changes of clothes, their mother's old photograph, the tin can of herbs, and a worn Bible. "This is all we have," Amara said, ashamed. Alexander looked at the pathetic bag, then at the shack where his children had lived, where they'd survived on scraps, where they'd suffered alone, where they'd somehow remained kind despite a cruel world. "Then we leave it behind," he said gently. "All of it. You'll never need any of it again." The helicopter that landed in the field made the whole neighborhood come running. Children who'd bullied the triplets stared in awe. Adults who'd ignored their suffering suddenly wanted to know if they could help. Alexander ignored them all. He lifted his children, his precious, brave children, into the helicopter one by one. As they rose into the sky, Amara looked down at the place that had been her whole world. The shack, the bushes where they'd found their father, the roads they'd walked barefoot searching for bottles to sell. "Don't look back," Alexander said gently. "That life is over. You're going home now." "Where is home?" Kalu asked. Alexander smiled. "You'll see." The helicopter flew over Enugu, over countryside, toward Lagos where Alexander's main mansion waited. When they landed, night had fallen. The mansion was lit up like a palace, every window glowing, gardens illuminated by elegant lights, the fountain in front courtyard sparkling. The children stepped out, overwhelmed. "This is too big," Chitty whispered. "We'll get lost." "Then I'll find you," Alexander promised. "Always." But at the entrance to the mansion, as staff lined up to welcome them, Amara stopped. She looked down at her feet, bare, dirty, scarred from walking on rough roads. She looked at the perfect marble floor, polished so bright it looked like glass. "I can't," she said quietly. "My feet are too dirty. I'll ruin it." Alexander followed her gaze. Then, without hesitation, he knelt in his expensive suit, ruined from the crash but still worth more than everything in that shack combined. Right there on the perfect marble. "Amara," he said, voice breaking, "this house belongs to you. These floors were built for you to walk on. You are not dirty. You are not shameful. You are my daughter, and you are royalty." He took off his own shoes, Italian leather, custom-made, expensive beyond belief. "See," he said, "I'll walk barefoot with you. We'll dirty every floor together. Because this house is not more important than you." Nothing is more important than you. Amara's tears fell like rain. Chitty and Kalu rushed to their sister, and all three children clung to their father in the entrance of a house they couldn't comprehend, feeling finally, for the first time in their lives, safe. That first night after baths in bathrooms larger than their old shack, after a feast they could barely eat, their stomachs too small from years of hunger, after being shown bedrooms with beds so soft they felt like clouds, Alexander gathered his children in his study. The room was lined with books and photographs. On walls hung awards, certificates, news clippings about his business success. But Alexander ignored all of it. He opened a locked drawer and pulled out a folder. "I need to tell you about your mother," he said. The children sat close together on the leather couch, listening. "I met Nkem 8 years ago," Alexander began. "I was already wealthy, already important, and she was a market woman, selling vegetables near my office building. I used to walk past her stall every morning, and one day, she smiled at me. His eyes grew distant with memory. It was the most beautiful smile I'd ever seen. So I stopped. We talked, and I fell in love with the kindest, bravest, most wonderful woman I'd ever met." "Why didn't you marry her?" Amara asked. Alexander's face darkened. "I wanted to, but my family, they were furious. They said she was too poor, not educated, not good enough for Nwosu. They threatened to disown me, to destroy my business." "Did you let them?" Chitty asked quietly. "No," Alexander said firmly. "I chose Nkem. I told my family to go to hell. I was going to marry her, build a life with her no matter what." "Then what happened?" Kalu asked. "I woke up one morning, and she was gone, vanished. Her friends said she'd left Lagos. Nobody knew where. I searched everywhere, hired detectives, offered rewards, but it was like she'd disappeared from the earth." He opened the folder, showing them documents, investigation reports, witness statements, maps of cities where she might have gone. "I didn't know she was pregnant," he said, voice cracking. "I didn't know about you three. If I had known." "Why did she leave?" Amara asked. Alexander pulled out a letter. Old, yellowed, ink faded. "I found this among my mother's things after she died last year. It's from Nkem. To me. Written 8 years ago." He handed it to Amara. In her mother's careful handwriting. "My beloved Alexander, by the time you read this, I will be gone. Your family came to me yesterday. They said they would destroy you if I stayed. They said they would ruin your business, take everything you built, leave you with nothing. I cannot let that happen. You are meant for greatness, my love. You are meant to help people, to change Nigeria, to make the world better. I cannot be the reason you lose that. I am carrying your children. Triplets, the doctor says. They will have your eyes, your smile, your good heart. I will raise them to know that their father is a great man, even if they never meet you. One day, when you are strong enough, when your business is secure enough that your family cannot destroy you, I will find you. I will bring our children home. Until then, I will wait. I will survive. I will keep them safe. I love you always. Nkem." The letter shook in Amara's hands. "She didn't leave because she wanted to," Alexander said through tears. "She left to protect me, to protect my future. And I never knew. I searched for her, not knowing she was hiding to save me. And then she died," Amara whispered. "She died," Alexander agreed. "Thinking I would never find you, never know about you, that she had to keep you secret forever." The room fell silent. Then Kalu asked, "Why the Santa suit?" Despite tears, Alexander smiled. "When I finally found where Nkem had gone, Enugu, living under a false name, I was going to surprise her on Christmas. I would arrive like Santa, bringing gifts, bringing myself. I would tell her that my family no longer controlled me, that I was powerful enough now to protect her, to marry her, to bring her home." His smile faded. But Obinna found out. He knew that if I brought a wife and children into my life, I would change my will. He would lose his chance to steal everything. So he sabotaged the helicopter before I could reach Enugu. But you crashed near us, Chitty said. I crashed near you, Alexander agreed. Behind the very shack where you lived. Behind the place your mother went to escape my enemies. Like she was still protecting me. Even from heaven. The children understood then. Their mother had kept them safe by hiding them. Their father had been searching without knowing what he was searching for. And somehow, divine providence or pure fate had crashed a billionaire's helicopter behind a shack, putting a dying man in the path of 3 children who would save him. We were meant to find you, Amara said. Yes, Alexander whispered. We were meant to be a family. Your mother knew it. She kept the lullaby alive so I would recognize you when I heard it. She gave you the birthmark, or God did, or fate, so I would know you were mine. He pulled all 3 children close. She saved me 8 years ago by leaving, he said. And you saved me last week by staying. Both times, the Nwosu family survived because of love. A year after the Boxing Day miracle, the triplets stood in front of their school for a special presentation. They'd been asked to share their story, to inspire other students, to show what was possible. Amara stood at the microphone, looking at hundreds of faces. Students, teachers, parents, reporters. People ask us all the time what it feels like to go from poverty to wealth overnight, she began. They want to know if we're happy now, if having money solved all our problems. She paused. The truth is, we were happy before. When we had nothing except each other, we were still happy. Because we had love. We had purpose. We had each other. She gestured to her brothers standing beside her. The money didn't make us a family. We were already a family. The money just made it easier to survive. But we learned something important, Chitty continued, taking the microphone. We learned that when you have more, you can help more. We have a hospital now that treats thousands of people. We have schools where children learn for free. We have programs that feed families who are hungry. Kalu finished. We didn't get rich to buy fancy things. We got rich to make sure no other children have to live how we lived. To make sure no other mother has to die from a disease that could be treated. To make sure kindness isn't something only rich people can afford. The auditorium erupted in applause. After the presentation, a small girl approached Amara. She was thin, dressed in worn clothes, clutching a plastic bag. Are you selling bottles? Amara asked gently, recognizing the signs. The girl nodded, ashamed. Amara knelt down. What's your name? Chioma. Well, Chioma, I used to sell bottles too. I know how hard it is. She pulled out a card and wrote something on it. This is the address of our foundation office. Take this to them. They'll help you. Food, school fees, whatever you need. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Why would you help me? Amara smiled. Because someone helped me once. And now I get to pass it on. That, she realized, was the real purpose of wealth. Not to hoard it, not to show it off, but to multiply the kindness that had saved her life, sending it out into the world like ripples on water. Every Boxing Day after that Christmas, the Nwosu family gathered in a special place. Not their mansion, not their expensive properties, but in the field behind the hospital in Enugu, where 3 children had once dragged a dying man in a Santa suit to safety. They would sit on simple benches under the stars, the same stars that had watched over them that desperate night, and they would sing the lullaby, the one Kem had taught her children, the one that had brought a father home. Lula, Lula, Nwam Kani Nalu. Sleep, sleep, my precious child. The moon watches, the stars guide. Your father's love will never die. And every year, children from the neighborhood would gather to listen. Children who were sick and getting treatment at the hospital. Children who were learning at the free schools. Children who were eating because of the feeding programs. They would listen to the billionaire and his triplets sing, and they would understand that wealth wasn't about money. It was about love that refuses to die, kindness that multiplies, hope that survives even the darkest night. On the 10th anniversary of that Boxing Day, when the triplets were 17 and preparing for university, Alexander added something to the statue. A fourth figure, a woman standing behind the children, her hands on their shoulders, her face serene and loving. Kim, the mother who'd sacrificed everything so her children could one day have everything. "She's finally home," Alexander said, tears streaming down his face. Amara took his hand. "She never left Papa. She was always with us. In the song, in the birthmark, in the kindness she taught us." The family stood together in the twilight, complete at last. A billionaire who'd found his purpose. 3 children who'd found their father. A love that had survived betrayal, poverty, death itself. And every Boxing Day, when Nigerian families gathered to feast and celebrate, the Nwosu family would return to the spot and remember that wealth isn't found in banks. That family isn't defined by blood alone. That the greatest treasures are discovered when you choose kindness over cruelty, love over fear, hope over despair. 3 ghost children had saved Santa, and in saving him, they'd saved themselves. And in saving themselves, they'd shown a nation what redemption is all about. Tell us what you learned from this story. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you and compliment of the season.